I jolted awake in the dead of night, cold sweat beating on my forehead as my daughter Mia's whisper sliced through the silence from the next room. Her sleepy voice, sharp and innocent at 9 years old, said something about her mother calling me the biggest mistake of her life when I wasn't around, though she wasn't sure who Mom was talking to, just a man's voice on the phone. That soft murmur cut like a blade, shattering the fragile picture of the family I'd clung to for 11 years. My chest tightened, and I stumbled out of bed, heart pounding as if it might break free. I'm Ryan Carter, a construction engineer who thought he had it all figured out. Moments before, I'd been holding a fairy tale book, ready to read Mia to sleep. Now, that book dangled from my hand, forgotten, as her words echoed in my skull. I forced my legs to move, stepping in her dimly lit room where she lay curled under a blanket, eyes half open. I crouched beside her, my voice steady despite the storm inside, asking when she heard that. Mia rubbed her eyes and mumbled it was last week. During a call, the man's voice muffled but her mom's laugh uneasy, like when she hid her frustration at my late nights. That detail lodged in my gut, sharper than I expected. I managed a weak smile, brushing her hair back, telling her it was just grown-up nonsense, nothing real. Mia nodded, trusting me as always, though her hazel eyes, so like mine, held a flicker of confusion. I kissed her forehead, waited until her breathing evened out, then retreated to the kitchen. Alone in the dark, I sat motionless, the weight of her words sinking deeper. Elena, my wife of 11 years, a driven lawyer with ambitions I'd once matched, had grown cold lately. I remembered her sharp sighs years back, hinting I'd held her down when she missed a promotion, a resentment I'd dismissed as stress. Now, doubt gnawed at me, cold and relentless. Sitting there in that chilly kitchen, my mind spun with shadows. Was this a mix-up, or the edge of something dark unraveling? Before we dive deeper into this twisting tale, let me pause to ask where you're listening from today. If this story's grabbing you so far, hit that subscribe button to keep us going. Your support means everything. Elena texted then, claiming another late meeting. My gut twisted. I opened our family tracking app, a tool we'd set up for safety long ago. Her dot wasn't at the law firm downtown. It glowed from a ritzy apartment complex across the city, a place I'd never heard of. My breath caught. I recalled her tense look last week when I'd mentioned a call she'd brushed off, her excuse flimsy even then. The pieces didn't fit yet, but they were falling. Anger flared, hot and sharp, mixing with an ache I couldn't name. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Mia's face flashed in my mind, grounding me. I needed proof, clarity, before I let this storm loose. I woke up the next morning with a heaviness pressing against my ribs, Mia's whisper about that vague phone voice still clawing at my thoughts. I called my boss, muttered something about a family emergency, and took the day off. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I drove across town to that unfamiliar apartment complex, parking far enough away to stay unseen. Hours dragged by, the dashboard clock ticking louder than my heartbeat, until the afternoon sun cast long shadows and Elena stepped out of the building. She wasn't alone. Kyle, my younger brother, trailed behind her, his hand brushing her waist in a way that turned my stomach. I fumbled with my phone, snapping blurry photos as they moved toward her car, their casual intimacy a silent scream of betrayal. My vision blurred, rage boiling up from a place I didn't know existed. Kyle, the brother I'd pulled from the wreckage of his own failures, who'd slept on my couch after losing his job, had turned on me. I remembered a night years back, him drunk and bitter, snapping that I'd humiliated him by paying his rent, a wound I'd waved off as petty. Now it festered into this. I drove home, hands trembling, the taste of bile sharp on my tongue. Elena breezed in later, tossing out a story about a tough meeting, her voice smooth and practiced. I nodded, forcing a smile. Every word she spoke a fresh cut against my fraying patience. Her calling me a mistake made sense now, a resentment rooted deeper than I'd seen, maybe from years of feeling overshadowed by my steady climb while she chased her own. That night, after Mia's soft underscore black snores filled the house, I crept to the living room and opened our shared laptop. Elena hadn't bothered changing the password, her arrogance a gift I didn't expect. My breath hitched as I scrolled through her browser history. Divorce laws, asset division tips, custody battles, even searches about relocating to Canada. Then came the emails, a hidden thread with Kyle stretching back over a year, starting when he'd been crashing here, supposedly rebuilding his life. They mocked my trust, planned to take Mia away, and bragged about outsmarting me. Worse, I found bank records showing $60,000 siphoned from our joint savings, trickled into an account under Elena's name alone. My daughter's future, stolen piece by piece. A sudden creak from the stairs jolted me upright, heart slamming against my chest. Elena stood there, half asleep in her robe, eyes narrowing as she saw the laptop glow. I slammed it shut, muttering about work emails, my voice tight and unconvincing. She stared, tension crackling between us, then turned back to bed without a word. My pulse didn't slow until her door clicked shut. That moment, her silent suspicion clashing with my racing fear, lit a fire in me. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war, fueled by Elena's buried grudges and Kyle's wounded pride, aimed at stripping me bare. I couldn't lash out, not yet. Mia's face floated in my thoughts, her trust anchoring me. I opened my phone, searched for the best divorce lawyers in the city, and took my first real step into the fight ahead. I sat across from Daniel Pierce in his sleek office, the city skyline a gray blur behind him, and laid out every shred of evidence I'd uncovered. My voice stayed steady, but inside, I churned with a mix of dread and fury. Pierce, a divorce lawyer known for slicing through deception, leaned back and listened, his eyes sharp and unreadable. He nodded when I finished, then spoke plainly. He told me to keep silent, to let Elena and Kyle believe they'd outsmarted me. Their arrogance would be our edge, he said, pushing me to gather more, to document every move. I left his office with a plan, a thread of control amid the chaos Elena's resentment and Kyle's spite had unleashed. Living turned into a grueling charade after that. I smiled at Elena over breakfast, asked about her day, and read to Mia with the same gentle care, all while a storm raged beneath my calm. Every word from Elena felt like a trap. Every touch a mockery I forced myself to endure. At night, I became a shadow in my own home. I tucked a recorder in my pocket, catching her late calls in the living room, her voice bitter as she trashed me to friends or schemed with Kyle. I tracked more bank transfers, snapped photos of statements, and hired a private eye to shadow them, stacking up proof of their secret rendezvous. For Mia, I poured everything in, driving her to school, cheering at her games, capturing every smile to show I was her rock. Her drawings from therapy lingered in my mind, jagged lines of family split apart, a silent cry I couldn't unsee. I invited Kyle over for dinner one night, calling it a brotherly catch-up. The air thickened as we sat, Mia chattering between us, unaware of the tension. Kyle spun a yarn about a job in Canada, his voice slick with lies, while Elena flicked quick glances his way, their coded signals glaring to me now. I kept my cool, asking about his plans, nodding like I believed him. My fork scraped the plate too hard, a slip I covered with a cough, but they didn't catch it. The recorder hummed, snagging every smug syllable. I remembered Kyle's sulk years back, when I'd outshone him at a family party, a slight he'd nursed into this venom. Later, alone with our tablet, I found a chat Elena hadn't wiped. She'd asked a friend about faking my stress into some breakdown for custody leverage. The friend cautioned against it, calling it a gamble, but the cold intent chilled me to the bone. I sat there, fists clenched, staring at the screen. Then the floor creaked behind me. I spun, heart pounding, to see Mia in her pajamas, clutching a glass of water. She'd nearly caught me, her wide eyes flicking to the tablet before I shut it and ushered her back to bed with a shaky laugh. That close call hardened me. Elena's bitterness, Kyle's grudge, they weren't just leaving me. They aimed to erase me from Mia's life. My rage turned icy, a promise to outplay them at every turn. I felt the weight of weeks spent in shadows lift when Elena finally dropped her mask. She cornered me one morning in the kitchen, her voice clipped and practiced, saying we'd drifted too far and needed a break. She pinned it on my long hours, my focus elsewhere, but I saw the roots of it now, her old bitterness from years of feeling trapped by my steady rise while she clawed for hers. I nodded, keeping my expression blank, sensing the blow she'd prepared. Days later, a courier thrust divorce papers into my hands at the office, right in front of my team, her timing a calculated stab to shame me. The pages branded me neglectful, unfit for Mia, and demanded full custody for her plus a fat slice of my paycheck. My pulse raced, but I'd seen it coming. I met Pierce that afternoon, sliding her lies across his desk. He skimmed them, a faint smirk tugging at his mouth, then mapped our counterstrike. We hit back hard, filing a petition stuffed with proof, bank records of the $60,000 she drained, photos of her and Kyle together, emails plotting there. Canada escape, recordings of her scheming to smear my sanity, and a thick log of my time with Mia, proving I was no deadbeat. Pierce timed the delivery for late Friday, leaving her lawyer, Henry Brooks, to choke on it over the weekend with no room to dodge. I pictured Brooks unraveling, his polished facade cracking under the weight. Brooks demanded a meeting soon after, his tone brittle over the line. I walked into Pierce's office, shoulders set, ready to face them. Elena sat across the table, makeup perfect but hands restless. Kyle slumped beside her, eyes skittering away from mine, his grudge from that old family party still simmering. The night I'd stolen his spotlight without meaning to. Brooks opened with a shaky plea for a deal, proposing we split assets and Mia evenly. Pierce slid a folder forward, cutting him off, letting the evidence hit. Elena's face blanched as she flipped through, her fingers shaking over the email where she'd brainstormed faking my collapse. Kyle snapped then, slamming the table so hard the glasses jumped, his voice roaring that I'd pay. Elena flinched, tears streaming, her panic spilling out as her plans crumbled. I leaned in, my voice low and firm, laying out my terms. I said Elena would drop her petition, I'd take full custody of Mia, and she'd get supervised visits only if she stayed within 50 miles. She'd repay the $60,000, face her financial fallout, and surrender the house. Kyle would vanish from Mia's life for good. I met their gazes, adding that refusal meant court, with every ugly detail laid bare. Brooks blustered, calling it absurd, but I silenced him. I pointed to Pierce's thicker file, unopened, hinting at worse to come, and gave them 48 hours to choose. As we rose to leave, Kyle lunged across the table, his fist grazing my shoulder before Pierce hauled him back. His snarl rang out, vowing revenge, but I held his stare, unshaken. My heart thumped, not from fear, but from a cold clarity. Elena's buried resentment, Kyle's wounded pride, they'd misjudged me. I walked out, her sobs fading behind me, knowing their collapse had just begun. I braced myself after the meeting, knowing Elena's resentment and Kyle's spite wouldn't bend to my terms. Their counterattack hit fast and vicious. Elena filed a police report, claiming I'd harassed and threatened her, twisting her old grudge into a weapon of fear. I sat in an interview room, Pierce beside me, facing a detective who sifted through my evidence and waved off her tail as a divorce trick. The relief barely took root before more strikes landed. Elena changed the house locks, forcing me to wield a court order for my stuff. Anonymous calls pelted my boss, hinting I'd misused company funds, while a letter reached Mia's school, questioning my fitness around kids. My gut nodded each time Mia echoed their lies, her voice quivering as she said they'd warned her I was unhinged and needed fixing. I pressed on, logging every move, until a late-night call snapped me awake. Henry Brooks, Elena's ex-lawyer, spoke low and urgent, saying he couldn't help them fake papers to sneak Mia past border checks, his line drawn firm. He urged me to stop her leaving the country soon, then cut the line. My chest tightened, his words sparking panic. I rang Pierce, my hands shaking as we rushed in order to lock Mia's travel and flag her passport. I called Thomas Reed, Elena's father, who'd seen enough proof to turn against her games. I laid out the crisis, pleading for an hour to act, and he agreed, his voice thick with shame, promising to pull Elena away with a family excuse. I raced to the house once Thomas confirmed she'd gone. The new locks taunted me, but my court order cracked the door open, revealing Kyle sprawled inside, guarding his prize. He leapt up, eyes blazing, demanding my purpose. I flashed the order, saying I'd come for Mia, my tone flat but ironclad. He snarled I had no claim, and I shot back, guessing their Canada flight from Brooks' tip. His face drained, proving me right. He swung then, his fist nicking my jaw as I sidestepped too slow. I reeled, pain flaring, but shoved him back, toppling him into the coffee table with a crash. Mia bolted from her room, tears streaming, crying for peace. Her fear, mirrored in the jagged family sketches from therapy, pierced me, and I stopped cold, fists unclenching. I scooped her up, whispering she was safe, that I'd protect her. She gripped me, sobbing about a secret snowy trip with Mom and Kyle. I grabbed her backpack, tossing in clothes and her bear, then carried her out. Kyle lurched up, swearing I'd rue this, but I tuned him out, driving to a hotel. There, Mia settled, spilling their plan, a dawn flight to a winter wonderland they'd hid from me. I called Pierce and the police, locking her in with me for the night. My jaw ached, my heart heavier, as I watched her drift off, her small face tight with a confusion I couldn't erase. Elena's buried anger, Kyle's festering envy from that old rent. Spat, they'd pushed too far. I crossed their line now, holding Mia close, ready to fight with all I had left. I stood in Judge Clara Evans' courtroom, palms slick against my thighs, as she sifted through the evidence Pierce had stacked high. Her fame for putting kids first steadied my racing pulse. Mia rested safe at the hotel with a sitter, her tale of the secret trip still haunting me, her voice small but heavy with trust. Pierce recounted the night before, my clash with Kyle, and Mia's innocent words confirming their Canada scheme. He presented flight records, one-way tickets in Elena's and Mia's names, dug up with police aid. Elena's new lawyer, a steely replacement for Brooks, stumbled through a defense, claiming it was a known vacation. Judge Evans pinned her with a look, noting the hidden timing trashed that story. Detective Sarah Cole marched in mid-session, her steps ringing as she reported Kyle's arrest at the airport. She said he'd tried boarding a Toronto flight with cash and Elena's jewelry crammed in his bag. Nabbed as my order locked the system. Elena gasped, hands clutching her face, tears spilling as the room hummed. I watched, my chest tight, not with victory but with a hollow pang. Judge Evans moved fast. She gave me temporary full custody, boxed Elena into supervised visits, took their passports, froze our assets, and banned Kyle from Mia outright. She named a guardian for Mia's sake, her tone cutting as she cited their flight risk and efforts to twist Mia's mind against me. Elena's sobs spiked, her lawyer muttering uselessly, but the gavel dropped, sealing it. Outside, Elena's lawyer floated a settlement to dodge more court mess. I agreed to listen, thinking of Mia's fragile faith. Days later, Thomas recalled, asking me to meet Elena alone at a diner, just us and him. I left Mia with Claire, my steady friend, and went. Elena looked broken, eyes swollen, her polish stripped away. She apologized, pinning it on Kyle's sway over her buried resentment, that old ache from years of feeling less than me. She begged me to try again for Mia, her hand shaking toward mine, but I drew back. I said our marriage was dead, my voice even but firm, offering co-parenting if she owned her choices. Anger flashed in her eyes, then faded, and she nodded. Thomas watched, his silence thick with sorrow. Negotiations wrapped quick after that. Elena's weak spot forced her to take my deal. I kept primary custody in the house. She repaid the $60,000, ate her financial fallout, got no alimony, and stuck to a tight visitation plan barring any venom about me. Signing the papers lifted a burden, though no thrill came. I drove back to the hotel, Mia's sleepy hug greeting me, and sank into a chair, eyes on the ceiling. The fight had ended, but the echoes lingered. Kyle's arrest replayed, Elena's collapse rang, and Mia's quiet cling that night, her trust shadowed by confusion I saw in her therapy sketches, weighed on me. Elena's grudge, Kyle's envy from that rent fight they'd lost. I'd won Mia, but rebuilding from this rubble loomed large, step by weary step. I settled into a new rhythm with Mia after the papers were signed. The hotel traded for our house once the locks bent to my key. The quiet felt odd at first, no echo of Elena's steps, but Mia's laughter crept in, softening the edges. She faltered sometimes, her questions about her mom and Uncle piercing, her faith shaken by their shadows. I found a therapist, sat through sessions where she drew fractured homes, her confusion spilling onto paper in shaky lines. I held her close when she cried for the old days, keeping my words simple, shielding her from the worst while forging a steady life. Just us. Elena kept to her supervised visits, showing up punctual, her face a mask of strained peace. Her failed flight with Kyle spread like wildfire, her law firm demoting her, colleagues turning cold. Thomas and Linda, her parents, stayed near, cooking with Mia and me, their choice cutting Elena deeper. Kyle faced charges for the airport grab, his life sinking as he took a 2-year prison term for attempted kidnapping and theft, his calls to me ignored. Friends split, some drifting off, others closing ranks, their help a lifeline I leaned on. Claire became my anchor, her accountants, I untangling my finances, her warmth easing my nights. Mia warmed to her, giggling over math, and I felt a spark flicker where trust had burned out. One evening, Mia rushed in, breathless, saying she'd spotted Kyle's truck down the street. My stomach dropped, and I grabbed my phone, peering out to see his rusted Ford lurking under a lamp. I dialed the cops, voice low to soothe Mia, and watched them drag him off for breaching the court's ban. His glare stabbed through the dark, a fading threat, but I turned back, hugging Mia as her shivers calmed. Months later, an email from Kyle landed, sent from prison. He wrote of regret, his envy rooted in that night I'd paid his rent, a slight heed. Let rot into this ruin with Elena, her resentment his fuel. He didn't seek pardon, just owned his wreckage, saying he aimed to shift behind bars. I read it twice, anger flaring then dulling to a faint ache. I didn't answer, the scar too deep, the trust too gone. Mia climbed onto my lap that night, her voice tiny as she asked if I hated her mom. I pulled her in, saying I didn't hate Elena, just mourned her choices, that we both loved her always. She nodded, nestling close, her therapist's words about her quiet fear of losing me ringing in my head. I lay awake after, the stillness pressing down. Elena's world had narrowed, her pride costing her more than she'd bargained. Kyle's had shattered, 2 years in a seller's price. I stood apart, piecing together something solid. Claire's laugh lingered from earlier, Mia's faith held me, and I glimpsed a road ahead, rough but mine. The battle had marked me, but it hadn't crushed us. Mia's drawings still showed cracks, but they were hers to mend, and I'd be there, steady as ever. I stood in the backyard, watching Mia chase fireflies under a summer sky, her giggles threading through the twilight like a song I'd thought lost. A year had rolled by since that whisper in the dark, and our home pulsed with life, no longer a hollow shell. My job had soared, the company lifting me to a senior spot, more cash and control and projects I craved. Mia blossomed, her school days vibrant, her therapy visits thinning as she patched over the hurt of her mom's choices. Her latest drawing, a bright house with us inside, showed scars healing. Elena held to her visits, supervision gone after she met the court's terms. Her new gig at a smaller firm, a fragile foothold she gripped tight. Claire wove fully into our days, her steady hand mine one night, as we told Mia she might stay, her grin a blessing I'd barely dared dream. We moved slow, folding her into our world, her quiet strength a light against old shadows. One afternoon, Elena dropped off Mia's art supplies, her voice faltering as she spoke of her fiancé, a soft-spoken guy from work. She eyed me, probing, but I smiled, glad she'd carved a lane forward. Mia hugged her goodbye, and I caught a rare calm in Elena's gaze, free of her festering grudge from years of feeling eclipsed by me. Kyle's life stayed dim, a 2-year prison stretch for kidnapping and theft locking him away, his name a ghost among old circles that shunned him. Elena paid her own toll, her network shrunk, her standing a faint echo of before. I faced no such fall. Friends stood firm, Thomas and Linda lingered close, and my world grew fuller, deeper than I'd pictured. Then a jolt hit. Mia ran in one evening, pale and wide-eyed, saying a gray car had tailed her and Claire from the park. I bolted out, spotting its speed off, my pulse spiking with Kyle Spector in mind, but cops pinned it to a random driver, not him. I held Mia that night, her breath warm against me, the scarce sharpening my thanks for this life we'd forged. I traced back to Mia's first words, Elena's biggest mistake, her resentment at my rise, a chain that freed me instead. Standing there, fireflies dancing, I saw Claire join Mia, their laughter blending, and felt truth sink in. Winning wasn't their ruin, Elena's losses or Kyle's sell. It was rising past their wreck, crafting something they couldn't reach. Elena stumbled from her pride. Kyle paid with 2 years caged, and I gained a future worth the fight. That was my win, soft and true. This journey ends here, folks. I'd love your take on this twist of fate, so drop your thoughts below. If this tale struck a chord, toss it a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for riding along, and I'll catch you in the next story.